Ladies and gentlemen, UFC 295 is just around the corner and I'm going to be going through the entire card, starting with the early prelims, ending with the main event, and not only giving my prediction and breakdown, which I have done already in my previous video, but talking about the betting side of things and going over some of the props, the parlays, and the value bets and the underdog picks that I like for this card of UFC 295. It's a great card, stacked in my opinion, definitely like more for the hardcores. But still, nonetheless, amazing card, and there's lots of bets that I've got written down here. If you guys choose to be playing with your money on this card, then obviously gamble responsibly. But these are the kind of props and bets that I like. So, first of all, we're just going to start and just run through every fight on the card, and then I'll go in order. So, the first fight on the card is Denis Buzukja versus Jamall Emmers. Denis Buzukja sitting at plus 220, Jamall Emmers at minus 263. For this one here, I like Jamall Emmers at minus 263. I've got a money line bet on him. I've got a decision bet on him at plus 100 as well, which I think is really good odds. And then I've got a bet on fight to go the distance at minus 217. So those are the three bets that I have on this card. I ultimately just think Jamall Emmers is going to get this one done with his range management, with his all-round, like more well-rounded MMA skill set. I don't think Buzukja shows much finishing potential in the Sean Woodson fight. He did struggle against a guy with a longer reach, a lankier guy, with those long dimensions like Jamall Emmers has. And in Jamall Emmers' fight against Jack Jenkins, he was hitting him up with the boxing, and his hands were looking pretty crispy. And that's what Sean Woodson had success with against Denis Buzukja. So, ultimately, Jamall Emmers doesn't show a lot of finishing ability, which is why I'm taking him to win a decision at plus 100. And I haven't seen much reason to believe that Buzukja would finish Jamall Emmers. So those are the three bets that I like putting down for this matchup. We move on up the card to Joshua Van versus Kevin Borjas. We've got Van at minus 270, Borjas at plus 210. I like Van still. Obviously, he's a semi-wide, like moderate favourite, which is, in my opinion, a fair enough tag. I'd probably like a little bit more value on him, but I will be taking the Joshua Van money line. I've got it down here at minus 238. I got it the other day. So that's a lot better than it's sitting at minus 270 now. So I've got a Joshua Van money line at minus 238, and then I've got a Joshua Van by KO or points as a double chance at minus 149, just to give a little bit more value, because I don't see him submitting Kevin Borjas, who's a guy who got held down and controlled pretty dominantly by Victor Diaz in his Contender Series fight, but didn't get finished, didn't get subbed, and then ended up getting back up and putting the leather on Victor Diaz. But Van looked great in the Zhumagulov fight, and I'm picking him to win this one here. I'm leaning a decision, but I do ultimately recognise the possibility that he's leveled up a lot, and he does put the hands together and finish Kevin Borjas in this matchup. So, Josh Van moneyline at minus 238, and a Josh Van KO or points double chance at minus 149. I like those two bets. We move on up the card to John Castaneda versus Kang. Castaneda sitting at minus 137, Kang at plus 112. I do like Castaneda in this fight. He's a small favourite. Something to note, maybe the fight was, I don't think it's going to be too significant. The fight was changed to a 138-pound catch weight because apparently Castaneda requested more weight advantage. So they're both weighed in at that. Castaneda actually weighed in half a pound lighter, but I don't think that's going to matter too much. Ultimately, I don't see the finishing potential as high on the Kang side. I see Castaneda being able to use his boxing in close and outpoint Kang. Because, look, he doesn't finish a whole lot of people. In his last fight against Muin Gafarov, he went long. He has gotten a few finishes in the past, but against a guy in Kang who's going to have a reach advantage, I think he's going to be more content to just land the good shots and then get out rather than trying to put together a 5-punch combination and go for a finish. So I'm taking John Castaneda at minus 139, and then I've got a Castaneda decision at plus 175 are the two props that I like for this matchup. The next fight on the card is Marc Madsen versus Jared Gordon. This opens up the prelims. Also closes out the early prelims, I apologise. Jared Gordon sitting at a little bit too wide in my opinion, a minus 220, and Marc Madsen sitting at a plus 175 tag. I ultimately do believe Jared Gordon gets this one done on the cards. He doesn't finish people in the UFC. That is the reason why I've got a Jared Gordon money line at minus 220, and I've got a Jared Gordon decision bet at plus 125, which I'm really impressed by, or not impressed, but I'm happy to be getting plus money on a Gordon decision when that's literally how he wins all of his fights. And then fight to go the distance at minus 278, I think is even more likely, is another bet that I've got down here. Ultimately, Marc Madsen, great Greco-Roman wrestler, but in MMA, I just don't see it translating as well. We've seen it in the past. He's been out-grappled before. I do think Jared Gordon keeps this one on the feet. Marc Madsen definitely going to have a strength advantage, definitely going to have that clinch wrestling advantage, but I think Jared Gordon keeps his range and boxes Madsen up. Madsen's a guy who's also gassed out a little bit later on in fights, so although I don't see Gordon finishing him, I think he's going to pick up the pace and maybe get a 10-8 round towards the end of the fight. But ultimately, I'm taking Jared Gordon at minus 220, and then that decision at plus money is looking pretty nice. We move on. Up the card, it's Nazim Sadykov versus Viacheslav Borschev. I'm taking Nazim Sadykov, another small favourite. There's quite a few narrow favourites on this card. He's at minus 141. Borschev is at plus 115. Ultimately, in this fight, I see Borshev's lack of takedown defense in the past being an issue. I do see Nazim Sadykov getting the takedown. Maybe has a bit of dicey moments on the feet. He did stand with Evan Elder and was losing that fight a little bit. But Evan Elder's a powerful dude. Evan Elder's a guy that hits you and it's just a bit worrying. And he's a strong guy too. I do see the takedown potential as pretty likely here. So I think Nazim Sadykov gets him down. And I think Borschev is either going to get submitted or he's going to tire himself out trying to get back up, resulting in a much easier time for Sadykov on the feet when they stand. Because in round one, if they stand and he can't take him down, my pick is Borschev immediately. That is the reason why I am taking Nazim Sadykov at a minus 133 on the money line. I do have a Borschev KO bet at plus 230, and then I've got fight to not go the distance at minus 180 are two other props that I like here, just to kind of hedge it. I don't think I have any parlays with Sadykov in it, but just to back you up, because obviously that's a lot more value on Borschev there. So if he comes through with a KO, which is the way I would see him winning, if he can keep it on the feet, he's got some crispy boxing and a lot of power, I would see him getting a finish. But ultimately, I do think Sadykov gets the takedown, and I do think he's probably going to submit Viacheslav Borschev or maybe TKO him on the ground. That's why there is no prop for Sadykov. I do have a Borschev KO there. And fight to not go the distance, I think, is pretty likely. I think whether it stays on the feet and Borschev finishes him, or whether it goes to the ground, I don't see Borschev surviving for the 15 minutes. We move on, though, up the card to Mateusz Rabecki versus Roosevelt Roberts. Rabecki's a big favourite here at minus 660. The money line is unplayable. Roberts at plus 450. I'm taking Rabecki. I'm taking a Rabecki KO at plus 160 as well. And then I'm taking fight to not go the distance at minus 230, because if you want to get some of that money down, I'm surprised that the Rabecki KO side is a plus money, honestly. I do see that. I do see the way that he wins that fight there with the finish. Roberts is a guy who's been finished in the past. He's not shown to have a granite chin by any means. And Rabecki's a guy with a lot of power who finished Lower Grajdubov in his last fight, who was seen as like somewhat of a prospect, you could say. Rabecki's a beast. Roberts coming in on like 4 days' notice. He missed weight as well. The reach is going to be an issue here for Rabecki. I do see that being a problem. Roberts can make people kind of struggle with that long range. Rabecki has struggled with it a little bit in the past if he can't get past reach. It happened with Nick Fior. When he goes against those longer guys, it takes a while for him to get inside, but once he's there, he puts damage on you and he usually gets the finish. So I see that happening here against Roosevelt Roberts, who has been KO'd in the past. So Rabecki money line, I got it at minus 620. I don't know, there's not really any point in chucking anything down, but the KO at plus 160 I do see as live. I think he gets him out of there in the first, honestly. Rabecki's a problem and a guy to watch in my opinion. But we move on up the card to Tabatha Ricci versus Loopy Godinez. This is an interesting fight and a pretty close one, in my opinion. I do see Loopy Godinez getting it done. I do see her getting it done by decision. But I do see it being a pretty competitive fight, and I recognise the danger on the side of Tabatha Ricci with the grappling. Obviously, that's her strength. That's where she's got it done in the past couple fights. But I see Loopy Godinez out-strengthening her. I see her being better on the feet, more dangerous, more powerful, and just more finishing ability overall. In her last fight against Elise Reed, she absolutely smoked Elise Reed. And although Elise Reed is not some sort of top 15 caliber guy, or girl, sorry, she's still a women's fight, and you just don't see people get absolutely ran over in the women's divisions. You don't just see those dominations where it looks like someone just shouldn't be in there. That's not really what happens. But that is what happens with Loopy Godinez. I see her making a lot of improvements in her game. She's leveled up a lot since some of her last fights where she had some questionable fight IQ moments. But I see her getting this one done with the strength. I see her stuffing off the takedowns, and then I do see her beating up, well, not beating up, but outpointing Tabatha Ricci on the feet. This fight's going to go long. I think it's going to go the distance. That is why I've got a Loopy Godinez decision at plus 110, and then a fight to go the distance at minus 330 as well. But the Godinez money line sitting at around minus 170. The side of Ricci can be found at plus 145 if you think she gets it done with the grappling. I just don't see either girl finishing the other one. I do see this going long. So that decision bet at minus 330 definitely appeals to me. We move on though. Up the card, Steve Erceg versus Alessandro Costa. This is an interesting one. It's a good fight in my opinion. It's a great fight. But it is short notice, and that is leading into why I'm going to be picking Steve Erceg in this fight. I ultimately just see the well-roundedness on his side. I see a guy in Alessandro Costa coming in on short notice who was finished by Amir Albazi with strikes in his debut. He got knocked down and finished. So that's just, I got to pick Steve Erceg. Although I do see it going long, I recognise Costa as pretty tough. I do think Amir Albazi is definitely better than Steve Erceg. I think Steve Erceg's just going to outpoint him, use his range. The leg kicks are going to be a big thing for both, more so Costa in my opinion. So David Dvorak was chewing up the legs of Steve Erceg, but it didn't seem to be affecting him that much. So Costa going with the leg kicks is going to be a big weapon for him in this fight. But I ultimately think Steve Erceg gets the decision. The money line for Steve Erceg at minus 200, I don't love it. Costa at plus 165 is not bad underdog money. I've got a Steve Erceg money line. I've got a Steve Erceg decision at plus 175. And then I've got a Costa KO bet as a hedge at plus 500, which I think is the way he would win this fight, honestly. I don't see him outpointing Steve Erceg across the distance. If he's going to finish this fight, I think he's just going to lay the heavy shots on him and he's going to find a finish maybe in the second or third round. But ultimately, I'm picking Steve Erceg. We move on though, up to the main card. It's Diego Lopes versus Pat Sabatini. This is a great fight and one I'm looking forward to a lot. I'm high on Diego Lopes and I think he gets it done and I love him at underdog money. He's plus 100. Pat Sabatini is small favourite at minus 122. I just don't know why he's an underdog. I just don't see anything in Pat Sabatini's game that's really going to help him get it done. He's got great top control, he's got good wrestling, but if your game plan's to wrestle, you're putting yourself into Diego Lopes's wheelhouse. You're basically saying, you want this fight on the ground, here you go, I'm going to give it to you. And I don't think he has a choice, because I think he gets torched up on the feet. I think Diego Lopes stood pretty successfully with Movsar Evloev for the most part, and I see that Pat Sabatini got dropped by Jamall Emmers and got finished by Damon Jackson. So Pat Sabatini on the feet has no success here. He's got T-Rex arms, he's got a short stocky build, he's got the build for a wrestler. That's what he's going to be aiming to do here, but I think if he does wrestle, he's going to put himself right into that guard of Diego Lopes, and I think he's going to get himself submitted. And if he stays on the feet, I do think he gets KO'd. He doesn't have the best chin. He's been finished before. So I see Lopes getting it done. I've got a Lopes money line at plus 100. I've got a Lopes KO bet at plus 450. I do have a Pat Sabatini with 2 or more takedowns. That's one on the Pat Sabatini side. That's at minus 133. I like that bet. I do think Lopes is going to be willing to go to the ground. I do think those takedowns are going to come easy. But I respect Sabatini's top control. I don't think he gets submitted on the first go, but I do see Lopes getting back up with a scramble, and I do see Pat Sabatini probably taking him down a couple times. So 2 or more takedowns for Sabatini is a bet I like. And I'll have a Lopes finish at plus 165 in case you think he subs Sabatini. And then I've got fight to not go the distance at minus 182 here as well, just in case you think Sabatini gets it done by finish, which I wouldn't see as likely, but you never know. So that's my read on that fight. I do see Lopes getting it done. I really like him at dog money. It's almost even, but still, if you see a plus number next to Diego Lopes, I'm more than likely going to be taking it. So, we move on though, up the card to Benoit St. Denis versus Matt Frevola. And this is a banger fight, but one that the lines have been moving. Benoit St. Denis opened up as a minus 400 favourite in this fight. That was promptly bet down, obviously, because that number is way too wide. With a guy like Matt Frevola who hits like a truck and KOs people for fun, you just can't be putting that kind of number next to him. It got back down to around minus 190, minus 200 for Benoit St. Denis. As of right now, it's sitting at a minus 233, which I don't love. I do recognise the major danger coming back from the Frevola side of things, and I do see his finishing potential in this fight being very high. So ultimately, I think Benoit gets it done. I think his pressure is going to be good enough, and I think the grappling is going to be unstoppable from Frevola's side. I think he wears him down. I think he's got better cardio, and I think he gets it done inside 2 rounds, whether it be by KO on the feet, TKO on the ground, or submission on the ground. I've got a Benoit St. Denis money line, obviously, at plus 233. I've got Benoit St. Denis KO at plus 180. I've got Benoit St. Denis as a finish at minus 140. I've got fight to not go the distance at minus 455. And then I've got a Matt Frevola round 1 KO at plus 850, just because I recognise that I honestly, if that's the way he's going to, if Matt Frevola's going to win, I see him getting it done in the first round by KO. So that's a kind of hedge that'll make you your money back if you miss all those other Benoit St. Denis bets. But ultimately, I see Benoit winning, and I see his pressure and his dominance being too much for Matt Frevola. I see him breaking him. But we move on up the card. Jessica Andrade versus Mackenzie Dern. This is one where I've been pretty confident throughout the fight week, throughout the build-up, and since this fight's been announced. My read on this has always been Mackenzie Dern takes her down and subs her. People are going to say her offensive wrestling is not that good, sure, but ultimately she got down Angela Hill to the mat across 25 minutes consistently and dominated her. And I honestly see Angela Hill right now as a more reliable fighter than Jessica Andrade. You might say that's crazy. Obviously, you look at Andrade's last 3 fights, which are all losses. They are against the best in the world. Lost to Blanchfield, who in my opinion is the uncrowned champ at 125. Lost to Yan Jianan, who's the rightful number 1 contender right now. And lost to Tatiana Suarez, who's the alternate title challenger if it's not Yan Jianan. So I do see that. I do see the respect on that side. I do see that obviously she's fought the best women in the world, but I just don't see. She's been dominated. It's not like she's losing split decisions to the best in the world. She's getting smoked and she's getting dominated, especially in the grappling by Blanchfield and Suarez. And Blanchfield and Suarez, better wrestlers than Dern for sure, but I do think Dern's got better jiu-jitsu than all of them. And if Jessica Andrade just easily gives up her back to Blanchfield and gets submitted, or gives up a guillotine to Tatiana Suarez, I do see once it hits the ground, and I think it'll hit the ground at least once, I think Dern's wrapping her up. I think the first time this hits the mat, it's done for Dern. So I see her getting it done. I've got a Mackenzie Dern money line at minus 208. The side of Andrade is at plus 160. I've got a Dern submission at plus 140, and I've got a Dern TKO at plus 800, just in case she, puts a bit of heat behind it and lays the ground strikes going. So that's how I see this fight going. I see Mackenzie Dern taking her down at one point, because even if you're not going to get her down with like a blast double or something like a pure wrestling thing, I just see something happening, getting to the ground, and she's going to submit Jessica Andrade. We move on though, up the card to Sergey Pavlovich versus Tom Aspinall. This is a really close fight. It's pretty much a pick 'em on the odds. Pavlovich at plus 100, Aspinall at minus 115. And again, I like the plus money on Sergey Pavlovich. Whether it's plus money, like it's plus 100, whatever, but still, I like that money on Pavlovich, and I like any underdog money on Pavlovich, who's a guy that if he fucking touches you, you're cooked, you're dead. You're done, as Alexander Volkanovski would say. So I see Pavlovich walking him down, I see him laying the jab on him, and I see him wobbling up Tom Aspinall all over the octagon. I see Aspinall's takedowns getting stuffed because I don't think he's going to be shooting the best takedowns. I think he's going to be shitting himself on the feet, and that's going to result in some rush takedowns, which are going to get stuffed by Pavlovich, and that's only going to put more doubt into the mind of Tom Aspinall. So I ultimately do see him stuffing the takedowns. I see him not piecing him up, but I see him really damaging Tom Aspinall on the feet, who comes in with his chin wide up like this. He's trying to show you that underneath the chin. It's like this, comes in, like, here's my chin up, give me a left hook, and I think he's open for a left hook against the guy in Sergey Pavlovich, who just catches people. He caught Derek Lewis coming in, he put Taito Ivasa on the back foot and TKO'd him, and then he put Curtis Blades on the back foot and TKO'd him. So I recognise that the speed of Tom Aspinall is going to be an issue. I recognise that the takedown threat is going to be an issue as well. But Sergey's been preparing as a backup fighter for Jones/Stipe. That's a well-rounded approach. Jones is a better fighter than Aspinall, I do believe. So he's been really working the wrestling. He's being praised by these guys at AKA. I do think that Overeem fight was a one-off in his debut. He's mentioned it many times. That's the switch that made him stop being an amateur and start training like a professional MMA fighter. So, Sergey Pavlovich at plus 100. The KO at plus 125 doesn't add much to your slate. A round 1 KO at plus 260, that's how I see him getting it done. Fight to end in round 1, if you think Aspinall also has a shot, is minus 135. I like those odds. And then if you want to hedge it, an Aspinall finish at minus 109 if you want to make a little bit of money back, just in case, you know, Pavlovich, the speed's a bit too much. At least then you get some money back. So, that's how I see this going. I do see Pavlovich getting him down, I guess, with strikes. I see him TKOing him. I wouldn't say he's going to flatline him. We haven't seen Pavlovich really flatline anyone, but I think he's just going to wobble him up with a jab. And I think Aspinall's been looking pretty nervous and talking pretty nervous all fight week. So, I'm confident in Pavlovich. I like him at dog money, and I think he gets this one done. But we move on to the main event. Yuri Prochazka versus Alex Pereira. Shama, Luda, Shama, Dazonia. I actually reached out to Alex Pereira and asked him about the comments on the fight. That was his answer there. I just played that was a voice memo. That wasn't even me talking. But this is a great fight. I like Alex Pereira to win here, and I like him at not dog money, but pretty even money. He's sitting at right now minus 122, Yuri Prochazka at plus 105. I like those odds. And I recognise that it is an even fight. I recognise that Yuri does have the capability to win. He's a tough guy. He's got a lot of power. And I do see his finishing potential as very high in this matchup too. But ultimately, I got to go with the more seasoned kickboxer. I got to go with the better striker. And I've got to go with the guy who I just think is ultimately better. I don't see anyone going for takedowns here. I do think it stays on the feet, and when it does stay on the feet, I see Alex Pereira having a lot of success. So I think he's going to KO him. I've got Pereira moneyline at minus 123. I've got Pereira KO at plus 125. Got Pereira round 2 KO at plus 675 as well for some value, because I don't think he gets it done in round 1. I do think Yuri, he's got a good chin. I do think he takes the early shots. I've got Pereira by KO in round 1 or 2 at plus 240. Fight to end by KO at minus 313, sorry, and then Yuri Prochazka KO at plus 185 as a little hedge, I guess, too. I see this fight ending by violent KO. I see the winner flatlining the loser, and I see someone becoming a champion in glorious fashion. So, those are my picks for the card, but finally, we move to some quick parlays. I've got 10 little parlays this year. I've got 9 minor ones, and then I've got a big one right at the end, just for a long shot. But first parlay here, we've got Lopes and Pavlovich at plus 302. I really like those odds. 2 plus 100s come together, they give you a plus 302. I like that a lot. Jamall Emmers, Josh Urvan, John Castaneda, the early prelim parlay, gives you plus 221 on the slate. Jared Gordon decision, Rabecki and Erceg gives you plus 270. I like that. A Rabecki KO, Godinez Ricci to go the distance. That sits at plus 238 as well. Emmers decision and Gordon decision, if you think those two go long, that's plus 350. I do like those odds for those two fights. Godinez Ricci to go the distance. Lopes and then Dern gives you plus 284. I like that. St. Denis KO and a Pavlovich KO gives you plus 530 on your slate. I like those lines. Pavlovich KO, Pereira KO, and a Dern submission at plus 1100. That's reaching a little bit, but you never know. And then I've got a main card parlay of Pavlovich, Pereira, Lopes, Dern, and Benoit St. Denis. Gives you plus 1439 on your slate. And then just for the fun of it, we've got a big one at the end here. We've got Jamall Emmers decision, Joshua Van, John Castaneda, Gordon decision, Rabecki KO, Godinez Ricci to go the distance, Erceg, Lopes, Benoit, Dern, Pavlovich KO, and Pereira KO. Gives you plus 106,583. So chuck $1 on that, and you'll be able to pay off the house tomorrow. But ladies and gentlemen, those are the full card predictions and the betting breakdown. Let me know who you guys are picking in the comments. Let me know what bets you guys are placing down. Give this video a like. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Go check out some of my other videos, my full card predictions. I gave a bit more detail. And then I had a PowerPoint presentation recently that was going over the most boring fighters in each division, which is trending really well, and it's doing pretty well. So you guys are liking those kind of videos. I've got another one coming out soon. We blew past 100 subscribers on Wednesday. I was meaning to make a 100 subscriber special sometime next week because I thought that's when we were going to hit it. But we blew past it on Wednesday with that video that just blew up. So I'm sitting at around like 160 subs right now, which is crazy. So much appreciated to anyone who subscribed to the channel recently. I hope you guys are enjoying the videos. Go follow my Instagram, LeftLane MMA. And yeah, share this to all your mates and put your money down where your mouth is. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out, everybody.